Welcome to Incessantly Seeking, where we discuss the pursuits that drive our lives with a new guest every Friday. I'm your host, Luciana Fauhaber, and today we're discussing the pursuit of beauty. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Incessantly Seeking. We're here today with Phoebe Dawson. She's a makeup artist, and she does also incredible work with hair. And I'm so happy to be here and call her my friend. So hi, Phoebe. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Luciana.
So, Incessantly Seeking is about the pursuits that drive our lives. And for you, that's been the quest for beauty and for feeling the best version of yourself and portraying that for other people as well and helping them be and feel the best version of themselves. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
I'm from a small beach town in New Zealand called Nelson. That's where I grew up. And just since I was young, like 13 years old, I just always wanted to do something. I really loved makeup. I loved entertainment, movies, music. And I just wanted to do something where I could like travel, do what I love, meet amazing people, and see the world. And yeah, and I just really got into makeup. I think in high school, I had braces, and I just noticed how much dyeing my hair or styling my hair and like putting on some mascara and lip gloss and like covering your pimples, with concealer, like it just made such a difference, like how I felt inside. And I just really got passionate about it. So then when I was 17, I actually dropped out of high school because I knew I wanted to be a makeup artist. And so I moved to Australia by myself to go to makeup school. And then I moved to LA when I was 19 to chase the dream and work in Hollywood and get started. Yeah.
I mean, that's really brave. When you were going through that, do you remember your thought process? Did you just jump in and say, I know this is it. I know this is what I'm doing with my life, and I'm not going to think about anything that holds me back, like being afraid or being in a foreign country by yourself?
I think it was really scary because I didn't know how to drive. I didn't know a single person. It was like a big culture shock. But I wanted it more than I was afraid of it. Like I wanted it so bad, and I was from a small town, so I just always knew, like in my heart, that I just wanted so much more. So I was willing to like be really uncomfortable and just make it happen.
So you got here, now you're in America. You go to beauty school, you learn about makeup, you're trying to get gigs. What are some challenges that you faced?
Um, So when I first moved here, I would waitress at nighttime, and then I would take any kind of makeup gig, like free, $50 a day, $150 a day, and I would do test shoots and message models and just do all that stuff. And I think getting around LA was so challenging. Like at the beginning, I was taking the bus, and like it wasn't like public transport now. This was like 11 years ago, so it was just finding a bus, going to the right street, and then when I figured out how to drive, I had to take driving lessons, and then we're driving on the wrong side of the road, the steering wheel's on the other side of the car. And then just being the first few years of my career, I was so broke. I slept on an air mattress, and just having those times where you're like, I have $7 in my bank account, like I hope to God that like I have enough for rent by the time it's due. So a lot of moments like that, and just like making it work without having any clue how to do it. So I think, yeah, definitely in the beginning there was oh, and then I would have cars that would just break down all the time because I had like cheap cars, so they'd like fall apart, or then I needed new transmission. I wouldn't have the money to like get the new transmission or whatever it was. So there was definitely challenges.
And what were the things that kept you going in those moments?
I think just the dream and the goal. And I think like little wins, like I would get one job that was like good or exciting, or that would be like kind of a stepping stone towards where I wanted to go. And I think I just really love what I did. And I think also the motivation to not go home and be a failure, like I really, that really motivated me a lot because I didn't want to like not make it and then go home and be like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? So that was motivating.
Um, do you think that being a woman in this business has helped you and hindered you, or mostly helped you or mostly hindered you?
Um, hmm. I'm sure both. Like, I think hindered me maybe in the beginning because I was very young when I started and like kind of shy. And I think maybe people underestimated me a lot or thought, who's this, young kid? What does she think she's doing? Does she know what she's doing? And I think being a woman, maybe as a makeup artist, like people kind of expect you to be a woman. I think maybe for other crew members, it's probably harder if you're a woman, but I think, especially when I began, it was definitely a male dominated industry. So a lot of crew members would be male. The people making decisions and hiring and firing were very male dominated. Now it's shifted a lot, which I really love.
Yeah, I'm also really happy about that. I'm a producer at points and I'm talented sometimes, and just to be able to not only have women of color who are in every aspect of production, in a way, it's really interesting. But I always say this story to my friends. When I first moved to LA from New York, I was in the bathroom of a casting office, and there was this African American actress, and we were chatting, as we were fixing our hairs in the mirror and getting ready for like that introduction session with the casting director. And she was talking about her husband, who was a director producer. I don't even remember her name, but I never forgot this. And she said to me that day when we were looking at ourselves in the mirror, and she said, do you know why white male are always working? And I said, no, why? And she's like, because they keep hiring each other. And it's not until women start to
Wow.
hire each other that we're not going to have like as much of a spot in the sun as they do. And that kind of stuck with me. So whenever opportunity I have to hire women that I know like you do amazing job and are out there to uplift people, I always do that because I think of this woman whose name I can't even remember. But it really stuck with me, and throughout the years I thought about that a lot. So thanks for bringing that up. And I
Yeah,
know,
and
go
oh, I
ahead.
just want to say, like, I'm so grateful for our friendship too, and just you as a person. Like, you're so inspiring, and you really, yes, you're like talent, and you're so talented at acting, but also at producing too. Like, you always bring on amazing women and powerful women, and you really are a person that like gives people around you opportunities. And even if you're not involved in the opportunity, you still hook people up and hook women up. And I think that's really amazing.
Thank you. I just believe in that. I believe in really lifting each other and supporting each other, as best as we can. But also, I think it needs to be said that we as women and the women that we consistently work with, they are, incredibly qualified. They do a fantastic job. And maybe they don't have as many credits, but they definitely have the experience to uphold and do a good job in the positions they're put in. And,
Mhm.
I'm very tired too of this discussion nowadays that like, oh, women are giving these jobs, people of color are given these jobs, but they're not the most qualified for the gig. And at the end of the day, you have to think about that. Well, white cisgender male have had opportunities for many, many more years. Of course, their resumes are going to be longer, but that doesn't mean that we can't do as good of a job, with less credits. I think effort and dedication also goes a long way. And I
Yes.
think women really strive to do the best job they can when they have an opportunity. So I keep that in mind. But for you, you've always are an uplifting person, and you always also try and uplift people, not only through their looks. But I know for a fact, because you have given me some really great books, that you are constantly trying to self improve yourself. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I'd love to hear how do you are always self reflecting.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I think, I really love that about you as well, and I think, as much as beauty is an outside job, it really is, like, it starts with how you feel inside and how you feel about yourself, and, if you're so worried, like, you don't love yourself and you're really worried how you look and feel really insecure, like, that's gonna show through your acting, that's gonna show through the camera, and you're not gonna be comfortable even if you have the most beautiful makeup or the best hair or the best outfit, so I'm really passionate about just the inside stuff and reading and self improvement and like, taking time for yourself, taking time to meditate and taking time to like be the best for myself so that I can be the best support system for my clients. And then also like to bring good positive energy, because when we're on set, like, we're together for like 12 to 14 hours a day, sometimes more. So if you have one person on set that kind of has a bad attitude, or they're negative, or they're complaining, like, it really affects the whole team because we're all working so closely together. So I think working on like mindset and like self-love and peace and all those things is so just as important as the outer stuff or being a good actress or your skills as well.
I love what you just said, and I think it's so important that beauty is not an outside job. Even though, we do have these tools, makeup, hair, clothing, styling, cars, like you can expand that to purses, to, all sorts of things that make you feel empowered and beautiful. But I think what you touched on is so important to repeat, that beauty is an inside job. And for us to feel powerful and feel beautiful, there's some tending to your own garden that needs to be done.
Yes,
Like, I love also what you said, in the sense that when you work with people, you're with them so much that how you feel really affects everybody else, and I think that's true for everyone. um, and I wish more people would be that aware and that
same.
self-conscious, right? um,
Yes,
and I think we live in a generation where we're so preoccupied with the way we portray ourselves on Instagram, on Facebook, on social media, and God knows what else these days, TikTok, and the list goes on and on. But I think it's important too that we understand that we can only be as beautiful as we feel.
hmm yeah, I think it's so true, and I think it's for men too, for everyone. It's like, it's really how you treat people and like your energy at the end of the day, and that also helps with like if people want to work with you again, or if they trust you as a person, or want to be around your energy. It really makes a big difference.
So now you're still away from your family, still living in the U.S., chasing
hmm
your dream. How's that like, being away from your family and your hometown?
I think it's hard. Like I've missed, there's sacrifices. So I've missed weddings and put in events, a lot of birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, many times. Whereas maybe other people are able to spend those times with their parents or do Sunday dinners. But I know this is, what I love more than anything. And like I feel more at home on set than I do anywhere else in the world. So it is a sacrifice, but I think what me and my sister do is we just really try and make it special when we do have that family time, or like if our parents come and visit or we go home, like we'll really do a few weeks and like really make it special and celebrate life or travel somewhere. So you just kind of do what you can, but it's like, okay, this is the life I chose and the sacrifice is part of it. So yeah.
And I think also technology has been so great these
Yes.
days, allows us to have this conversation today, and people all over the world to watch it and listen to it. Maybe, especially during COVID, I think people really connected again via these devices. We had FaceTime and WhatsApp, and Zoom became a thing that nobody had heard about before. So it's really great that we have had this opportunity to connect, even though we've been so far during these troublesome and difficult times. Do you think during COVID, did you have a time to like self-reflect? Is there any kind of discoveries that you had about yourself? Any kind of revelations? I feel like a lot of people had that moment of self-reflection, and a bit more intense than normally.
Yeah, definitely in the beginning, especially during 2020, there was like a time period where the entertainment industry was just totally closed for like months, and we literally no one was working. So I think I had a lot of alone time. But I think, yeah, it's like as much as it was frustrating, then it's like you're just like, okay, this is what's happening. I'm going to deal with it. And I think I really had time in a way that was a blessing to like work on my business and be like, who do I really want to work with? Where do I see my career going? What do I love? What don't I love? And since I've been back at work, I've been way more choosy with clients and just being more careful, like what is their purpose? Do I believe in it? Do I really want to work with this person, or am I just taking it because it's a paycheck? And I think before COVID I just took anything because that was my mentality. So now I'm much more careful and like doing everything with a lot more intention, and just being more aware of like where I want my life to go and like what really brings me happiness. So that definitely was a big blessing.
And were you able to implement that as we start to reopen and go back to work?
Yeah, definitely. Like I turn down a lot of gigs now, like more than I ever did before, and I really feel at peace with it, and I'm way more choosy with who I work with and how I want to work, and I think too, I realize like it's not just the client choosing me to hire, it's also me choosing the client to work with them too, and I don't have to say yes to everything. So, yeah, I think it's been good.
And that also comes with that confidence that you mentioned of knowing the work will come. You don't have to say
Hmm.
yes to everything. You can say yes to things that line up with your goals and your energy and the people that you want to be working with. So that's really important. Um,
Yeah.
I read a book during this pandemic break. I'll call it a break because we're back to hopefully soon a full reopening. But it was called Superfans, and it talked about how you don't get in a car and tell your GPS take me anywhere. You get in a car and you type in the address of your GPS. And you have a goal and like a place that you're specifically going, and we should be the same with our lives. We should treating our lives the same way. We shouldn't just look ahead and think, oh yeah, I mean, whatever life takes me is fine, because life will take you wherever. But if you have a
Yeah.
specific goal, like a GPS, when you're trying to get somewhere and you type that address in, then you kind of can think of steps and the path to take to get to the place where you want to be going. So,
I
so
love that.
yeah, I'm super excited that you felt like you did that during a break, and now that you're implementing that in your life and you are getting to where you want to go. So that gives me inspiration to keep doing the same.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you inspire me all the time. So, and there's another one I heard where it's like what you said with the GPS, where it's like when you go to a restaurant, you're not like, oh, bring me whatever. Like, especially in LA, you're like, it has to be gluten free. I like this. I want it this, without the broccoli or whatever. And then they know what to make you. So I love that.
And I love what you just said, and that example is perfect. We're so much more choosy about what we eat in a restaurant than we are about the direction we take our lives. you know and if
Yeah,
you
which is
think about
crazy.
that, it's crazy when you
Yeah.
think about that. It takes how many minutes searching a restaurant on Yelp and then getting there, and then like you said, I'm vegan, I'm gluten free, I like this, no, can you take onions out, a little bit less of that. And why would we be any different with our own lives? It really blows my mind. So
Yeah.
that's a really great
True.
example. But continuing and talking about this idea of books and themes, I want to share with everyone some of the books you've given me that I thought were very inspiring. This one is really fun, which is Bleep, from Amanda Francis. It's really like a fun breakdown kind of book on how to be your own boss and how to build the life that you really want to build. What is about this book that really jumped out at you?
Yeah, that book was so good. I like that she had different exercises in it, and she just really talks about she talks a lot about like beliefs around money, beliefs around life, and like how we have like limiting beliefs and like really going for what you want and just really thinking about like how you want it and like taking the limits off it and like dreaming bigger and thinking bigger and like asking for more and her life is such a great example. So she shares a lot of personal stories and stories how she grew up in this kind of middle class family and then she just really went for it and she also manifested her dream guy too, which I really love. So she was like single and now she's in this great relationship. And yeah, she just really, and her house, I kind of stalked her life as well while I was reading it and saw that she was really doing everything she said. And it was just really inspiring.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Phoebe and I consistently share stories of dating and heart, break and heart mending, and hopefulness for, the one or whatever that is, your partner that's going to come your way and be a fit in your life. So I shared before that love has been the pursuit of my life. So it's interesting to think that you know a little bit about that and manifesting, like really again with the GPS idea, with the restaurant idea. It's not like I want a nice guy or a girl. It's got to be like, oh, I want someone who is honest and hardworking and, see life this way. And I think it's important to set those parameters.
Yeah, I think it's super important and like have the same values and like just all the things that you want and like what kind of lifestyle the person's life would be that fits in with your lifestyle and your goals and your how you want to live your life. So yeah, I think it's so important, like the menu and the GPS.
And the idea, I think this idea of visualization really blew up with those vision boards that were really popular just a few years ago. And I hear
Mhm.
people saying like, oh my God, that totally worked for me. And like, even to the T of the things that I put on that board came to life. And I think that's great. But a lot of what we read is a lot about perception and like emotion, and really not just saying to yourself, I want this, but you really, what does it feel like to be in that space, and how does the life that you dream of is gonna change based on that. And I know it sounds like, as we're talking, like a lot of work, but again, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, it's your life. Why would you not want to work hard at creating something that you are gonna be happy with and love? I used to be a 9 to 5er and have a 9 to 5 job, and I would love and would dream of the weekend and the vacation time. And now I live my life hoping that I don't ever wish for a time off because I love what I do so much. That's really the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's such a blessing to live that life where you're like, I love my work so much, I don't even care about taking time off.
Yeah, and I think that that's part of this visualization, this looking forward into the future. It's really important. So thanks for sharing about that. And then there's another book that you gave me recently that I just started reading that I've heard great things about, called How to
Oh,
Do the
yes.
Work. So again, like I mentioned before, Phoebe has been such an inspiration, so great about self improvement. And I think in this post COVID world, we really all need to be really looking closely at our mental health and what we're going, and the kind of life that we're living, living with intention. So why don't you tell me a little bit about this book? Why did you love it? Why did you give it to me as a gift?
Yeah, so that book I started following her on Instagram. She's amazing on Instagram and she just posts these amazing things and she really talks about like addictions and trauma and just all the things that we have like different like maybe negative patterns that we have now. Like she really talks about how they came from like childhood and patterns with your parents, and like if you don't kind of work through these different patterns and become aware of them, you're going to kind of date people with the same issues, or you're going to keep attracting the same thing, or like it's not about the alcohol or the maybe addictive behavior or toxic behavior. It's more about the emotions and pattern, and that could be like subconsciously safe to you, even though it's not something you actually want, but it's like something deep in your subconscious. So she really talks about and she shares like client stories in the books, and it's pretty amazing, like just what they find out and like why these people had maybe these weird addictions or kept attracting these weird, jobs where they weren't fulfilled, or relationships where they weren't fulfilled, or kept dating people that cheat on them or whatever it was. And just really getting to the root cause, which usually wasn't what people think, and just how we all have the same kind of basic human needs that we're constantly trying to get fulfilled, maybe sometimes through the wrong places.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think, again, COVID did that for all of us and showed how we're also human and we all strive to have similar things as safety, love, family, shelter, heat, like the basic necessities at the end of the day really are basic and needed. The name says it on its own. And for us, and I think other artists as well, really use that time to evaluate and redirect the GPS. But I think it's important, and hopefully that happen in a grand scale so that we can realize that we are in this life together, and try to be good and present with each other as much as we can. For me, it's interesting because this idea of perception, I always would say, no, I'm doing everything I can. I don't understand why I keep dating these types, or I don't understand why my career is not moving forward. And now I look back and I think, oh my God, I was so stuck in that. I really couldn't see anything differently.
Yeah.
Now when I go on a date, I'm so clear on my what my standards are, on my parameters are and what I'm looking for, that I can immediately very confidently say, I don't think you're a match for me, but thanks for your time and I hope we stay friends, and not be worried about it. In the past, I would be, oh, let me see if it works out. Let me see if maybe like I misinterpreted things, you know. Same in my career. In my career now, when I want something, I'm able to say, thanks for the opportunity. This is what I need to make this work. And if they say, oh, we're not there yet, we can't do this, or they'll step up to it and say, okay, we're going to, you know, get you what you need to fulfill this job. It's amazing to be able to just speak out and have this conversation openly. And that comes with confidence and self-perception that really has changed. So it
Yeah,
works.
it
This
really
work
works.
works. Yes,
The work works for sure. And I
exactly.
totally relate to everything you just said with like dating and career, and like the self confidence and like self image is so big as well. And just like you really need to take that time and like really look and be like, what are my beliefs? Like, how do I really feel about myself? And just like really kind of work through it. So, but it works.
And as we're wrapping up, what would be your advice to youngsters who are coming into a new workplace? We're talking about entertainment specifically, which is the area we work in. But what would be your advice to anyone who is deciding to follow their dreams and go to a foreign country and leave everything behind?
I would say, make sure you really, really want it, as much as you like want to breathe, because it is a lot of work. And just work really hard, like show up early, do your job like the best you can. Like a lot of people, will do the bare minimum. So I feel like if you have a good attitude, you show up early, you do the job, you give it your best, have intention, like the GPS thing that we were talking about, and just really stay focused on your goals and like dream big and know that it's possible. Like the time where you're like, you know, have no money in your bank account, you're sleeping on an air mattress, like if you have that dream and you have the faith and you work towards it, like anything is possible. So yeah.
My acting coach in New York was called Bill Esper. And our first day of school, he said to everyone, he said, if you can imagine yourself doing anything else but being an actor, go do that, because it's not
Wow.
going to be easy. And it's exactly what you're saying. You need to want it as much as breathing, because there are going to be
Yes.
moments that are going to be so hard. And when you are faced with those moments, that's when we know, and yourself knows what you really want. You know, I've had plenty of actor friends who gave up and took full-time jobs that paid really well because they couldn't stand, you know, sleeping on air mattresses and taking waitressing jobs or whatever it took to just stay afloat. So this is
Yeah.
fantastic advice. Um, Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. You know, I'm not only your friend, I'm your fan, and we'll continue working together. Can you share with everyone who is watching and listening where to find you?
Okay. And thank you so much for having me. I adore you. I'm so grateful for you as well. And I'm your fan too. And everyone can find me. I'm on Instagram, Phoebe Makeup. My website is phoebedawson.com. So yeah, it's pretty easy.
There you go, everyone. Stop by, say hello, have any kind of inspirations or makeup questions for Phoebe. She truly is the best. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us, Phoebe.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been wonderful. Till the next time.
So fun.
Having an emotional connection, because see, we're emotional creatures. We try to ration things, we try to reason to justify certain things, but
Yeah.
all our decisions are made with emotion, right?